Welcome back to the Fitness for Life podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Lohr, and today I have with me Nolan Vannata, joining us from the Philly area, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Nolan has been a coach for about 8 years, and we connected at the Real Coaches Summit this past spring. So, Nolan, thanks for joining me today.
I appreciate you having me on. This is fun. You were very enjoyable and easy to talk to at the Real Coaches Summit.
Yeah, no, it was likewise. I'm glad we were able to connect and reconnect here. So, Nolan, one of the things I like to dive into right off the bat is just share kind of your story of how you got into the industry and what you're doing now a little bit.
Yeah. So when I grew up, my favorite classes in school were science, recess, and gym. I mean, that tells you all the signs you need to know. I ended up studying. I ended up going to school for exercise science. That was my bachelor's degree. And I went into that, talked to my advisor pretty early. I was like, I think this stuff is awesome. I just don't know exactly what I want to do with it. And she had a lot of connections in the Pittsburgh area where I went to school and just threw me around in a bunch of different areas, both like the rehab and clinical side of things. Thought it was okay. The research side of things, again, thought it was okay. And ultimately found the applied setting, which is things like coaching. And I've kind of been in this ever since. Even like throughout college, I was doing like internships, general population gyms. I was like, coaching friends and family members. They were like, I don't know, pay me like $20 for a workout plan, just, whatever.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this for a while and been doing it full time since like 2021.
Nice. Yeah. Good timing on that.
Yeah.
Right.
The first year, I was the lucky class of 2020.
Yeah.
So first year was not a whole lot of coaching to be done.
Yeah. No, it's I'm kind of in the same boat. Started the business in 2020 as an online business, which the online space was exploding at the time. But if I was one of the few who went straight to online and didn't have like time in a gym training people to start. So it was as an interesting time in the industry for sure.
Yeah. Did you start like before COVID really hit the US, like before mid-March, or was it like in the middle of
May?
It? Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. No, that would have been smart.
Apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I always find it interesting to hear like how do people get into it, and you pretty much went straight into it and loved it right from the start, and that's also pretty neat, and I think common is people just fall in love with fitness early on and continue that love and want to help other people find that as well. I think we were talking about it beforehand. You just completed a pretty interesting experiment that I think would be really cool for people to hear about. You want to share about what that was and kind of the results of that?
Sure. Yeah. So I just wrapped up 5 days ago, I think. So it was called the ice cream weight loss experiment. Every day I had a serving of Ben & Jerry's most calorie dense ice cream. And
Nice.
The goal was to do that for 30 days and still lose at least 10 pounds in the process. And then I ended up doing that, down 10.6 pounds in 30 days. And the reason I did all that was to kind of show people that a lot of the, I'm going to say rules and quotes for weight loss, like don't really need to be there. I like to simplify things as much as possible and say like, don't let yourself tell something it's an actual rule unless it is like a legitimate rule, a fact, a law of the universe. Anything past that is, doesn't need to be there. So it's got the seed oils in it. I was usually having it past 9 p.m. It's not high protein, it has no fiber in it. It's not low carb or low fat. It's quite high in both, which is why it tastes awesome.
Yeah.
And I was eating it right before bed. Like all of these rules that people say like, oh, you can't do that and lose weight. Kind of broke all those. Yeah. Down 10.6 pounds.
Nice. So what did for you, one thing, well done. Like I think it's important for people to hear that's it, even though it is a simple thing, that might not necessarily be an easy thing to pull off. So, well done to you for pulling that off, especially in a shorter time frame too. For you, what steps did you take to make sure that happened for you, even with, like you said, breaking all the rules, so to speak?
Yeah. I mean, a big part of it was like, I need to actually like feel decent during my workouts. I knew on such aggressive weight loss that like, I can't work out to the same intensity that I usually do. I was eating roughly 8 to 900 calories below maintenance levels, which is pretty steep. But if I was eating like a rabbit and just like not able to work out at all, then like what's the point of all this? Like, yeah, if you suffer for 30 days, you can lose a lot of weight. Like, no, that's not really a good lesson to teach. So finding that balance of like, eating so little that I lose the weight, but also eating enough that I'm still feeling good on the day-to-day basis. I'm not starving. I'm not eating like a rabbit. That was really important to me. And that's a pretty fine line within this context. Workouts did take a little bit of a hit. I was able to maintain a lot of fitness, just no improvement, which I see as a win. Like take one improvement at a time.
Yeah.
The weight loss side. And then fitness will be on the back burner a little bit. So yeah, like really making sure the workouts weren't suffering, and also trying to manage hunger was another kind of obvious obstacle.
Right.
So making sure protein was high, making sure fiber was high, and also minimally processed foods, specifically like having foods with more chewing time was big.
Can you give some examples of those just for audience sake?
Yeah. Did a lot of chicken. I moved a little bit more away from rice and went to quinoa.
Okay. Yeah.
Cooked my vegetables a little bit less. I usually roast my broccoli, for example, until it's like charred.
Yeah.
It tastes awesome. But I was like, maybe I could do like half the time. Has a little bit more like crunch to it. Takes longer to get through. Not a huge fan of apples, but I was like, that's a really good tool for this. It kind of takes a long time to chew and get through just like 100 calories. It's like a 5 to 10 minute commitment, depending on the size of the apples.
Yeah. A lot of water.
Seltzer waters were huge. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's awesome. I think I wouldn't have thought initially of seltzers, but that does make a whole lot of sense of like you get that additional fulfilling full feeling. So
yeah. I have a rule in general that's like no stress drinking.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable of mine. So seltzers have actually been like a part of my like at least like weekday diet pretty heavily for, when did I make that rule? Like 2 years ago.
Was there an impetus behind making that rule for you?
I think maybe like starting to see like all the stats about like stress drinking specifically during COVID, starting to get more into like the working world and seeing how common it was. Lucky that I did not have to hit any sort of rock bottom before putting that in place. I was just like, I could do without this. I wasn't doing it often, just like the occasional day, like super long day, chill out with a beer. And I don't think it was really doing that much harm at the frequency I was doing it, but I was like, I can go without this. There's much better ways to manage your stress.
Absolutely. Kind of looping back a little bit, your workouts when you were going through this from a standpoint of like cardio, steps, and even like your weightlifting, like what was your workout frequency? What did that schedule look like for you during this month?
Yeah, this August was kind of crazy. I was away every single weekend except for Labor Day weekend, which
That's
is
ironic.
Yeah. I mean, the only places I would go to like around here would be the beach and Labor Day weekend. It's just it's nuts. I don't want to sit in 5 hours of traffic to go to somewhere that normally takes 2.5, 3 hours. But yeah, the workouts, I was resistance training 2, maybe 3 times a week. Yeah, I usually do 3 to 4, but it kind of subtracted 1 because I wasn't here many other weekends. My cardio, it's usually walking. I've been running more just because it cooled down a lot here. August was a relatively cool August in the Northeast. So I did not think I was going to be running. I thought I was going to be doing a lot more like long walks, both for the intention of like I could burn, maybe 200 extra calories throughout the day. Exercise isn't a great facilitator of a calorie deficit, but it still helps. But then once the weather cooled down, I was like, I want to run. And I also noticed once I lost like 7, 8 pounds, I was like, running is a lot easier. Yeah, I was like, I forgot what it's like to be like pretty light and run. Average steps, maybe like 12,000 a day. So kind of high, but nothing crazy. I get a good amount of steps without like intentional exercise and walking. It just kind of happens throughout the day. I can't sit still. I'm very jittery, big caffeine junkie. So I naturally like get up and walk. That's pretty much it. I was actually doing less exercise because of the travel, like 2 to 3 resistance training sessions, maybe 2 runs a week, anywhere from like 3 to 5 miles, and then just steps.
Nice. That's phenomenal. Yeah. Did you, going into that, like, was it intentional behind the timing of the experiment that you knew you were going to travel, or did you just go into it and it happened to be that way, so you adapted?
I actually intended to do it this month for September. And I was like, well, first of all, I was like, oh, September would be a much better opportunity. It'd be easier for me to do it then. I was like, wow, I just made the same excuse that a lot of my clients make. Like, oh, I'll get to it later when things calm down.
And we know that
So
September's a big month for that, of like people
yeah,
pushing it off.
Yeah. So I was like, actually, I should probably walk the walk, do this thing in August. I was going back to Bethlehem. That's home. It's like 90 minutes north of Philadelphia. Went back there a couple times. Had to go to Cleveland, which is quite far. It's like 6.5 hour drive. And then I went to the beach with some friends, which isn't like stressful travel, but it's still travel, and people are eating and drinking, and like, had those like social and environmental barriers to weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for the sake of those listening, like, what do you do, and what did you do in those scenarios of like, all right, I'm traveling, I'm hanging out with friends, hanging out with family outside of my routines. Like, what did you do to make sure that didn't mess up the progress that you were making?
A lot of protein shakes and apples, stuff that was like really convenient when there was like a lot of eating, and like a lot of socializing is kind of just bouncing from food place to food place, moving around. That's super normal. So making sure I wasn't going into those specific meals like super hungry. And so like I was eating before those. So then I see that as like taking one step back to take two steps forward. Maybe I had an extra 300 calories, but then when I got to dinner, because I was less hungry, I was actually saving myself like, then going back like 1,000 calories in the other direction, because I could eat a lot, have a big appetite, grew up swimming. Everyone knows that swimmers could just like clear out a fridge. So yeah, that was hard. But then even when I wasn't hungry, I really noticed, I'm like, I just kind of want to eat because everyone else is eating. And that was really hard a couple times. I ended up having one day when I traveled to Cleveland, and then 2 days on vacation with my roommates and fiance, where I was like, these are maintenance days. I'm going to eat at maintenance level calories, the amount that I know I maintain weight. And that way it's not really progress or regression. It's just kind of like a scratch for the day. But the benefit I get is enjoyment. So I did have 3 of those days throughout the month. And nice. I maintained my weight around like high 2,000s, low 3,000s, depending on how active I am. That's pretty normal for someone of my height and weight activity level. So I did those. You do gain a little bit of weight, but like I know that it's just like food mass and water weight. And after that steep increase, it goes back down pretty quickly too. So having that knowledge ahead of time, standing on the scale the next day after those maintenance days, it's easy to brush that off, which if you don't know that, now you do. So if you have like one big day of eating and then you see like 3 pounds go up on the scale, that's not body fat. Maybe a quarter pound of that's not all body fat.
Right. Yeah. In order, for people who don't know the math, like we're talking a pound of body weight is something like 3,500 calories, give or take a few, but that's basically it. In order to gain, 3 pounds, even 4 pounds of actual legitimate body fat, you would be needing to consume 12,000, 13,000, almost 14,000 calories over what you burn that day in order to legitimately gain that much, which is the levels that like somebody on Man versus Food would consume in a day with a successful challenge. So that's very few people, if any, are actually going to be capable of doing that, even if they're being at their most indulgent. Yeah, that's just for someone at home trying to do the math. It's not possible to do that.
No. Who's that competitive eater? Oh, Joey Chestnut, the guy that eats like 70 hot dogs in 10 minutes.
Yeah. He might be capable of it.
Yeah. He could do it.
He's one of maybe a handful in the world, but even then that's the kind of eating you have to train for, not the kind that most people comes to naturally to most people.
Yeah, so, it's not pizza with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 12 pizzas with your friends. Setting up for a project like this, you've mentioned like your maintenance level beforehand. For somebody who doesn't know, how do you kind of establish what your maintenance calories are? How do you go about?
Yeah, they're There are a lot of online calculators. Personally, the one I used is through my tracking app, which is Macros First. I always like giving them a shout out. It's, to my knowledge, the easiest to use one. I'm not sponsored. I just really like them.
Yeah, I use them as well, and I've shared that as well. You know, Jacob and the folks at Macros First do a great job.
Yeah, it's awesome. So if you need a tracking app, check out Macros First. But yeah, I use that one, but I've also like verified it by just maintaining my weight for like a month and then taking my average calorie intake. If for some reason you think like the calculators that you're looking up are off for any reason, that really is the best way, aside from like going into an extremely expensive lab for many days at a time.
Yeah.
And like tracking everything. And even then there's going to be error. So yeah, if you maintain your weight and you track everything you eat, even if it's not like perfect tracking, you're going to know your maintenance calories then. So I've done both, and that's how I get around 3,000, which I actually thought it was higher. I thought for the longest time I had like a fast metabolism for my height and weight until I stopped doing endurance sports. And then I gained like 20 pounds. I was like, oh, wow.
That'll do it.
That will do it. Yeah.
What, just out of curiosity, this is kind of an aside, what endurance sports? So swimming, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I grew up swimming, ended up not swimming in college, but then I did a year of ultra marathon running, but my joints just really weren't ready for that. I was like on and off injury. Coming off of swimming, that's pretty normal, very aerobically fit, but I spent my whole childhood doing a non-weight bearing sport. My bones and tendons were soft. So long distance running didn't do well. So I actually moved to triathlon after a year because I found it to be easier than ultramarathon running. Even though I could train more, 2 of the 3 sports being non-weight bearing, low impact, really saved me. Like I could train all day and like I'm tired, but like I'm not banged up. I was able to push pretty hard, and I did that for about 5 years. Stopped in 2023. I just got too busy, just with like regular adult stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I'm with the rest of everyone, just doing this for health and feeling good.
Yeah. I think it's something it's something that a lot of people underestimate is how hard, just running can be on your joints. I can't remember who I heard it from, but it tracks so perfectly of like, a lot of people think that you want to run to get fit, but in reality, like a lot of it requires a baseline of strength, bone, joint strength, muscle strength, and aerobic capacity to run. You have to have that fitness in order to be able to even do it well. So, that's one of the things that I've worked with some clients on is like, hey, if you want to run, there's some things we have to get in place before we just, we can't just send you cold turkey into that, having not done it for 10, 20 plus years. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can look at my example of like swimming going into running. The internal system was there, the heart and lungs, the cardio, it was all there. Yeah, when I was having injuries, I was talking to a runner and he described it as putting a Ferrari engine in a minivan with all my injuries. That was the analogy I really liked.
I love that.
Yeah, and he's like, of course it's going to break down. Yeah. I trained a couple runners, and whenever someone would tell me like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at it, I only played like basketball or I did like powerlifting and stuff, I'm like, this person's going to be a very good runner just because like they don't get as banged up. They're like very like springy and resilient
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. They just spent years of like quick cuts on turf or a court or like doing like seriously like heavy loads in the weight room and stuff. Like, yeah, they always end up crushing it at running.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you get somebody, I think especially basketball players where like you have a very lateral sport like that, where there's constant like cuts back and forth laterally, people think of basketball players as people with weak ankles, but really when you take all of that movement out, they're actually quite resilient. It's just that they've been pounded, second after second, minute after minute for God knows how long.
Yeah.
So when you finally
6.5 feet tall.
Yeah. Yeah. And very top heavy with a lot of that weight and force coming down. So yeah, when you move that to a sport like running or an activity like running, where it's much more straightforward, like they're in good shape.
Yeah, for sure.
Backtracking a little bit, going back to the experiment. When you were going through this, was there any aha moments, anything you learned about yourself or about the process that you felt like, you want to pass that on to people that you're working with, or just that you feel like was relevant for you?
I mean, being able to, I haven't done intentional weight loss in a very long time. I did it when I was like 20, maybe. For reference, I'm 27. So it's been a while since I did that. And it was nice to experience that firsthand again. I could talk to people all day long, but it is nice to, step in, my client's shoes. And like, I can't emphasize, like, it wasn't the hunger. It was the social settings and just like the general, like, food environment. Like, it's always instinct for me to just go and just grab something to eat, because the rest of my meals are like quite filling and, I could say like aligned with weight management. So I had room to do like, pre-bedtime snacks and, oh, I want that, and just like kind of pick at it. Portion control, of course, but like I can have that flexibility and freedom pretty much every other time, because the rest of my meals are, again, aligned with weight management very well. And there just wasn't that room on weight loss anymore. So I didn't get to do those little pickings, and like I can't join for that. So like the social thing was really hard. I definitely learned that I sleep a lot better with a full belly, which I wasn't going to bed starving. I think the worst hunger I experienced, I rate at like a 7 out of 10. Most days it was just a 5, which I thought was a big win. But I usually eat a large dinner and then a snack before bed, and I'm out like a light. I could pass out, and I didn't have that unless I saved all of my calories for like the back half of the day, which that sounds really awful to do. So I didn't do that, because then my morning and afternoon would be miserable. But yeah, so like my sleep took a hit a little bit, and now I know like that's kind of why I was doing like the more like evening heavy eating. It just helps me sleep. Yeah, and then just like it's a really easy to thing. It's an easy thing to get right and an easy thing to get wrong. Like, it's kind of crazy that you're like, I don't know, the one sugary coffee and then cheese on your dinner away from being at maintenance instead of your deficit. I'm like, it's kind of a fragile process. Even with like all of the flexible eating methods that I employed, like there were no like foods that were off the table. But like even with that, it's a very fragile thing if you're not careful with your food swaps.
Yeah. Yeah. It is definitely, I think, especially with the timeline that you put yourself in to, 10, for those listening, like 10 pounds in 30 days is a short time frame for someone your size. I think we've talked about it. When you started this, you were 180s.
180. Yeah.
Yeah. So for someone your size, and how tall, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah. So you're relatively tall, relatively muscular, not a whole lot of fat to lose. So that's a pretty aggressive weight loss period for somebody. If you were 300, it'd be a whole lot easier for you to do, 300 pounds, it'd be a whole lot easier for you to do something in that time frame. To go from 180 to 170 in that, not an easy thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There were a lot of things that were easier and harder for me in my position. So I can never at this point fully relate to someone going through that for the first time, even the second or third time, just because it's like, this is kind of my thing. Like, I'm the fitness and nutrition person. Like, this is my career. So I think one thing that made it harder is I didn't have poor eating habits beforehand. So it wasn't like there was a lot of low hanging fruit to take care of.
Right.
I was also kind of lean at the start. So you kind of enter that territory of like towards the end, your body starts saying like, cut it out,
Yeah. Well, and
I think it was like
the sleep issues popping up on you is definitely
exactly
a piece of that. And anybody who's been part of who's taken part in a bodybuilding competition, who's participated in something like that, will tell you the exact same thing. The closer you get to competition, before your refuel, the worse the sleep gets.
Yeah. I think it was like 7.5 to 8 pounds in the first like 15 days, and then like 3 pounds.
Yeah. That last little
in the
bit.
in the second half. So like it really slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that made it more difficult, but then it's also easier because like I kind of know what to do at this point. Just got to do it. Like, I'm very certain with my decisions at this point. I've been doing this for a while. And also the motivation was higher than a person that's not a coach and not in this industry. And if any of the listeners are ever wondering like, how does my favorite coach or fitness influencer or that person do this so well? It's because they're more motivated. We have all of the regular benefits. And but when I say motivation, I mean like the true like definition, like the reason you're doing something, like what am I looking to get out of this? What's my motive? Not like, well, I just work harder. I don't want to sound like that.
Right. Yeah. That's a good,
Yeah.
good clarification. Yeah.
Yeah. We're more motivated because we have all the regular awesome benefits of healthy diet and exercise. And we know that like people take us more seriously, whether people like that or not. Like we know that like this is our thing. Like I will look like a fool if I do not hit this goal that I'm posting about every day. That's a fear-based motivator.
Yeah. Well, and there's weight to it because you want like this, the idea is you want to inspire, hope and, encouragement to people and use it as a lesson. Obviously that's part, it's part of why you do something like this as a coach, to show people that it can be done. You don't want to, there's a lot more riding on that from a potential for failure standpoint. And so, yeah, exactly. The fear-based motivation is substantially higher in that situation.
Yeah.
Which is powerful, but is maybe not something healthy long-term, right? We can talk all day about fear-based motivators and why those are potentially good to use at times, but not necessarily something you want to stick yourself with for life.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like this our job to kind of not totally depends, but like partially depends on us walking this walk, especially more on like the side that like does a lot of their content based on just like, look how fit and jacked I am, which is not what I try to do, but like them, it's even more so. Like that is their advertising. That's their motivation. If they can't stick to that, they don't get views, clicks, and ultimately like money. If you need a good analogy, think about what you would do for your kids or your job. Like in that moment, like if things kind of got crazy, like, your kid is waking up every night at 3 a.m. like I threw up, or your boss is like, you need to do this or you lose your job. Like think of what you would go through to do that. And that's kind of like a piece of like why a lot of us are able to stick to these things. And I don't want that to be like a, unmotivating. I just want that to make sense.
Absolutely.
Of like, if you're thinking like, why can they stick to it? It's like, well, there's like more reasons in addition to like all the regular awesome benefits of fitness and nutrition.
I think also depending on the coach, speaking from like personal experience, like there are usually there's usually for someone like me, someone like you, a lot more opportunity for like the exercise piece of things time wise, because it's, kind of we start our careers really building it into our schedule, and usually we're in the gym, whether it's filming content or working with a client or what have you. Like we don't have to drive to the gym or get our equipment or change outfits. Like we're there. So the opportunity is a whole lot more accessible usually for most people as well. So yeah, talking through like having experienced this particular experiment, did it inspire any interest or potential for any future experiments that you're like, oh, it would be really cool to try this instead?
I'm working through something right now that's like setting more well-rounded fitness goals. Because I always have been more of like a specialist, again, going from like I was a sprint swimmer and then I went to like endurance sports. So having some goals that cover something with power, VO2 max, and muscular strength. I'm also, getting to that age where I think about my own mortality and longevity. So that's kind of like inspiring goals around these, because those are things that decline a lot. And then with that comes decline of quality of life, muscular power, strength, and VO2 max. So having some goals around that, and also setting some parameters of like not training every day for like 2 hours, because then like what's the lesson there? So like maybe capping it at 6 days a week, but averaging around 4 to 5 and still hitting these goals. To me, like working within those parameters, it's more relatable. I could show that it's challenging me to be efficient with my time and do smarter training instead of just harder training. So I'm still working that out. Would like to set lofty goals, knowing I might not hit them, but get pretty damn fit along the way.
Yeah.
And learn a lot.
Absolutely.
So that's something that's in the works.
Awesome. Is there anything you would share about this process that I haven't asked about or you haven't shared yet that you feel like is relevant for people to hear?
Yeah, I like to highlight that I did this on the extremes, so you can learn about it and do it on the not extremes. So I lost weight at a rapid pace, and I intentionally chose a month where I'm traveling a lot, and I intentionally chose their most calorie dense flavor. At least to my knowledge, it's like 460 calories for like 2/3 of a cup, not even a full cup. And like I remember the first day looking at it, I was like, "This is stupid. And this is so small."
Yeah.
Like I thought it was going to be bigger, even though I read it ahead of time.
And that's like what, a quarter of your calories for the day, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like 5% of my food in volume and 25% in calories. Yeah, so I did all those on the extreme. So I could kind of send home the message like, what if you picked a, an ice cream that was like half as many calories, like half the calorie density? Because those exist now, even down to like a third, like those Halo Top ice creams. Just introduced a client to those, blew her mind.
Yeah, they've
I
gotten
was like,
really good.
you got to check this out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what if you did that and then you had ice cream every other day? You just bought yourself a little bit more flexibility to have, some other stuff, some bigger meals. And then what if you lost 1 pound per week instead of 2.5, which is still fantastic progress. 1 pound per week is huge.
I'll interrupt here for that. I will take clients as low as like a 1/4 pound per week in terms of the progress timeline, just depending on what their situation is. If they're incredibly busy, high stress, like not in a position where they can lose a lot of weight, example like yours, we're pretty lean. So for reference, like usually 2 pounds or a little bit more than 2 pounds per week is like the top end of healthy weight loss that we want people to be in. Unless you're, 300, 400 plus pounds and you really need to lose a lot, that tends to be the healthy range. You can slow it down as much as you want. And that's, it's hard to detect a little less than a 1/4 pound per week. Then you have to be detecting over like months at a time, and that's challenging. So I just wanted to insert that a little bit so people understand the range there.
Yeah, no, that's really important context. If you're ever looking as like a reference for like certain pounds lost per week, but you're a very small or very large person, start to think of it more as like a percentage. Because if you're like 5 feet tall, a pound per week is a lot, like so much. And if you're like 6.5 feet tall, you could probably speed things up and still be pretty flexible and do this very sustainably.
Yeah. I interrupted you. Was there anything you mentioned, talking about the extremes and the different, variety that you can kind of adjust those dials a little bit? Is there a thought that I interrupted there?
I mean, those were the big things, like the traveling, the specific calorie density, and the rate of weight loss made this a lot harder, so people could take those lessons and then make it a lot easier. And like even with all that, like all the extremes, still wasn't terribly hungry because of the other food choices I made. Again, high protein, high fiber, minimally processed. I'm very fortunate that I love cooking, and I've gotten kind of good at it over the years, and I have a pretty mean spice cabinet and some good sauces. So I wasn't like hating my food either.
Yeah.
I was able to make things very enjoyable. So yeah, if you just look at all that, be like, okay, what if I slowed the weight loss down compared to him, and I just had ice cream every other day? You're gonna have a lot of flexibility in your diet. Honestly, the preparing of things and thinking ahead was harder than the actual like dealing with the hunger and like actual food stuff in the moment. Making sure food is ready in the fridge at all times. Because if not, it's like I gotta eat something that's not going to fill me up, or I gotta go buy takeout that's probably going to put me like way over. And it's just, I was like, that's not an option for this.
Yeah. No, I think setting that with yourself ahead of time is the key to success there for sure. If take out more than once this month is going to mess me up, you definitely have to prepare ahead of time and have those things ready and kind of stick to those. I imagine it was, 2 or 3 hard and fast rules for you that kept things going in terms of like, all right, I've got to have that food prepared. And I've got to make sure I'm, anticipating when challenges are coming. basically, is preparing more
For
than
sure.
anything.
Yeah, stocking up on non-perishable food for like those long drives, especially like that Cleveland drive I did. Again, 6.5 hours. Like one of those like core power protein shakes. Yeah, they don't need to be in the fridge, and it's like 40 grams of protein. That and apples, which is like my car snack. Like anything else, like I can't be munching on pretzels. It's not filling, and it's just adding calories. And also traveling with ice cream is hard. With all the ice packs, still melts. And it is just liquid. Yeah, but I even traveled with them. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you do what you got to do, and to make sure you get it done. I love it.
Yeah, I never thought that, hard work and discipline would look like stuffing ice cream tubs in a cooler for a car ride.
Hey,
Yeah.
sometimes it's funny what those things turn into. Well, sweet. Nolan, this has been phenomenal. If people are looking to hear more from you, where can they find you?
Yeah, most active on Instagram, Nolan_Vannata. No one else has my name. It's not creative, just Nolan_Vannata. I got some free resources that I could send your way. I got some nutrition guides, some like a free exercise plan called Strong in 60 Minutes per Week. That's exactly how long it takes. You just need dumbbells. Yeah, that and my messages are always open. Like you can ask me any question. If you can't tell by now, I can't shut up about fitness and nutrition stuff. So please send me a message.
I love it. Cool. So if you folks are looking to hear from Nolan_Vannata, that's find him on Instagram. And then do you have a website?
I do. Yeah, the spottercoaching.com.
There you go. So you can also find him, contact him at thespottercoaching.com. Anything, final words, wrap up, anything else for us?
That's all I got.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for Nolan's next experiment he does with himself and tracking 5 goals at once, and see where that goes. Nolan, it's been awesome having you. I really appreciate you taking the time out for this call. If for folks at home, if you guys are listening to this, hopefully that gave you some ideas. Hopefully that inspired you. That's exactly why Nolan did this, is to show people that it's possible. And it's really cool experiment. I'm very impressed and find it incredibly interesting. And obviously there's a lot of takeaways that I hope you guys can learn from. Like he said, this was done on the extremes. Most people are not going to live in the extremes. It can be done, but take that out, spread it out, use the time that you have, and make it, don't make it hard on yourself. We're gluttons for punishment, but you don't have to be that way. So hopefully you guys got some ideas from this. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. If you like this episode, be sure to leave a review on Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube. And we'll tune in next time, and we'll be here with another one. Thank you guys.